Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today we're doing another Commander deck tech video talking about Karlov of the Ghost Council. This is Danny Boy EDH. Let's get right into it. We got Karlov here, legendary creature, spirit advisor for a white and a black. You got a 2/2 that can get pretty huge. Whenever you gain life, put 2 +1/+1 counters on him. And you can pay a white and a black, remove 6 +1 counters to exile target creature. So this is clearly a life gain deck. So Karlov can get pretty big to swing in for either lethal or just serious commander damage. It can be a huge blocker, or he can start exiling your opponent's problem creatures, or all three. So let's get into it here. We got a couple combo wins. Always like to have a couple combos in there. We got Exquisite Blood and Sanguine Bond, basically for infinite draining of your opponents and gaining your own life. Pretty self-explanatory. It's a life gain deck, so you know we were going to be running that in there. And then we got Sensei's Top with Aetherflux Reservoir and Bolas's Citadel. If you have Aetherflux and the Citadel on the board, the Citadel allows you to play cards from the top of your library. If you play one from the top of your library, pay life equal to its CMC rather than paying its mana cost. So basically you play Sensei's Top and you gain a life from Aetherflux Reservoir. Then you tap the top, hop on top of your library, and then cast it from the top of your library by paying 1 life. Then you'll gain 2 life, essentially storming off with Aetherflux to gain a bunch of life, and then laser beam your opponents for 50 life a pop, or whatever is necessary to get them out of the game. And then, last but not least, we have Famished Paladin and Sorcerer's Wand. You do need to have lifelink on the Paladin in order for this combo to work, but there's a few ways that this deck gives life gain to creatures, so I'm excluding that for now. But basically, if the Paladin has lifelink and it's equipped with the wand, you can tap it to deal 1 damage to target player or planeswalker. And then, since it has lifelink, it will gain a life and untap itself, and basically you can infinitely ping everyone, gaining life along the way. So those are 3 combos that we're running. So we got a couple tutors, Demonic Tutor to search for whatever you need, and Idyllic Tutor. An Enlightened Tutor would be nice in here as well, to grab artifacts along with the enchantments. We've got Rebuff the Wicked to protect our combo pieces and our commander. And now let's get into the meat of it here. We got our Soul Ring, Talisman of Hierarchy, Orzhov Signet, and Pristine Talisman for our mana rocks. The Talisman is nice because you can tap it to gain life, and that'll put 2 +1/+1 counters on Karlov. And get into the creatures here. We got Serra Ascendant, which is just a disgusting turn 1 play. In Commander, obviously, it's a 6/6 with flying and lifelink on turn 1. We got Soul Warden and Soul's Attendant to gain life whenever any creatures enter the battlefield. Auriok Champion will do the same thing. Daxos will gain when creatures enter on your side, but also when they die. Syndic of Tithes has Extort. Extort is a nice way to use your extra mana to drain your opponents, and can also gain you a bunch of life as well. Blood Artist, basically the opposite of the Soul Sisters, is just on death triggers. Whenever any creature dies, target player loses 1 and you gain 1. A Johnny's Pridemate, pretty much like a mini Karlov. Whenever you gain life, put a +1 counter on it. So that can get pretty big. And Angel of Vitality, if you would gain life, gain that much +1 instead. And if you have 25 or more life, which most likely you will on turn 3, or even later, because the life gain is just out of control in this deck. Gets +2/+2. Kambal, the former commander of this deck. Whenever an opponent casts a non-creature spell, that player loses 2 and you gain 2. Heliod, no Walking Ballista today, just straight up life gain value to give, whether it's your Famished Paladin lifelink or Karlov or anything. And he'll sometimes be a creature too. And he'll also dish out +1/+1 counters. Murderous Rider has some removal built in, and it also has lifelink when you play it as a creature. Luris of the Dream Den allows you to cast your Soul Sisters, your Bitter Blossom, other low CMC stuff from your graveyard once per turn. It also has lifelink built in too. Veto, Thorn of the Dusk Rose, is another combo with Exquisite Blood, and he can also give your creatures lifelink as well. And Cliffhaven Vampire is a flyer that will also combo with Exquisite Blood. Cryptghast has Extort built in and also can double the mana for all your swamps being tapped. Elenda of the Dusk Rose is just a busted creature. Whenever another creature dies, put a +1/+1 counter on her, and when she dies, create X vampires with lifelink, which is her power. That could definitely be another deck leader right there. And then we have Rock's Faithmender to double your life gain, and he does have lifelink as well. Sunscorch Regent, whenever an opponent casts a spell, put a +1/+1 counter on it and gain 1 life. It has flying. That can get pretty huge, especially in a 4-player game. Divinity of Pride has flying, lifelink, and gets +4/+4 if you have 25 or more life. So most likely that's going to be an 8/8 flying lifelinker. And then we've got Krav, the Unredeemed, who partners with Regna. And for Krav, he does not fly, which is unusual for a demon, but you can pay a black and sacrifice any number of creatures to draw that many cards and gain that much life, and then put that many +1/+1 counters on him. And Regna will give you creatures to sacrifice on each end step if your team gain life. So you can get you a lot of little dudes to sacrifice and draw cards. Regal Bloodlord, at the beginning of each end step, if you gain life, create a black bat token with flying. And Felidar Sovereign, the last of the creatures here, which in itself is basically a win condition if your opponents can't remove it or deal with your life total. Has Vigilance, lifelink, and at the beginning of your upkeep, if you have 40 or more life, you win the game. So those are the creatures. Now let's move into the enchantments. We got Authority of the Consuls. Creatures your opponent's control enter tapped. Whenever a creature enters under an opponent's control, gain 1 life. Blind Obedience has Extort and also taps your artifact or your opponent's artifacts and creatures on entry. Bitter Blossom will give you a fairy for the price of 1 life on your upkeep, but if you have a Soul Sister out, it'll basically give you free fairies. Griffin Airy, if you gain life, 3 or more life on your turn, you get a 2/2 flyer on your end step. It would be better if that was every turn, each end step, but 2/2 flyers aren't bad. Eternal Thirst will give lifelink to one of your creatures, and whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, put a +1/+1 counter on it. That can go good on Karlov or your Famished Paladin. Underworld Connections allows you to tap a land and draw a card for 1 life. And Phyrexian Arena will do the same thing on your upkeep. And obviously we've got plenty of life to spare in this deck. Sorin, he has a static ability that will give your creatures and planeswalkers lifelink. Another good way to turn on the Famished Paladin. And he can also deal damage to players or planeswalkers, and he can return target card with CMC X or less from your graveyard to the battlefield for -X, and it's a vampire in addition to its other types. Test of Endurance, another win con, provided the life total is there. Angelic Accord does check on each end step, and it will give you a 4/4 flyer if you gain 4 or more life each turn. Revenge of Ravens, kind of a deterrence for your opponents to attack into you. If they do, for each creature that attacks you, you gain 1 life. So if they attack you with 5 creatures, you gain 5 life. Whip of Erebos will also give your creatures lifelink, and it can return a creature for 1 turn to the field. Now we're getting into the removal. We're playing white-black, so there is quite a lot of removal here. We got our 1-drops, Fatal Push, Tragic Slip, and Swords to Plowshares for creature removal. And now we got a little more broadened horizons here. Despark, Vindicate, and Anguished Unmaking to deal with any kind of permanent. Hero's Downfall destroys a creature or planeswalker. Utter End will exile any non-land permanent. And Return to Dust can do artifacts and enchantments, and 2 of them if it is on your turn. Vraska's Contempt exiles a creature or planeswalker and also gains you life. Fumigate is a pretty good board wipe for this deck. Destroy all creatures, you gain 1 life for each creature destroyed this way. And another board wipe in Merciless Eviction, which you can choose what you want to remove. So that is basically all of the cards in the deck. Let's take a look at the lands here. Urborg turns all your plains into swamps. Glacial Chasm, you do have to sacrifice a land when it comes in, and you pay 2 for 2 life on your cumulative upkeep. So it can get expensive. Obviously, you can sacrifice it and not pay, but it will prevent opponents from swinging at you. Actually, it will prevent all damage dealt to you, and you also can't attack as long as you have it. It's a good buffer, provided your life total is right. Evolving Wilds to search for basics. Isolated Chapel, Fetid Heath, Temple of Silence for a scry. Radiant Fountain, ETB, gain 2 life. Vault of the Archangel gives your creatures Death Touch and Lifelink. And then we got some bum enter tapped lands and bunch of swamps and a bunch of plains. And that rounds out the deck there. That is Karlov of the Ghost Council. It's pretty good deck. It's not quite competitive level, but it's definitely fun to play and can get out of hand for sure. I like playing it. It's a fun one. Let me know what you think in the comments. What if there's any cards I'm missing, what you would add, and if there's any other deck techs you want to see in the future. Thanks for watching, and take it easy, guys.